I hope everyone is doing well and hope you're safe. And I'd like to offer a few words of encouragement for this week. I'm going to begin by reading from Luke chapter 24, a story you've probably heard many times. Now, on the same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all the things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near them and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and before all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped he was the one to redeem Israel. And besides all this, it is now the third day since these things took place, and some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who had said that he was alive. And some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "How foolish you are, how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself and all the scriptures. As they came near to the village which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us. It's almost evening, and the day is now almost over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, he blessed it and broke it, and he gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. And they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, and while he was opening the scripture to us?" And so that same hour, they got up and returned to Jerusalem and found the 11 and their companions gathered together. This is, it's probably my favorite story in the Bible. And it's not just that the story is fascinating and powerful, that there's this resurrected Jesus and these people don't recognize him, and why is that? What's going on? Why don't they know who that is? Even the way he talks, like, "How foolish you are." It just sounds like Jesus. Like, how do they not know? Like, there's a lot going on there, but that's not all. What I love about this story is, while it's a part of this grand, huge narrative of Jesus coming back to life, it's small. It's two people walking down a road having a conversation. A third joins them. They walk for a while. They go into one of their homes and start to have dinner. This smallness is important because I think this story is in many ways the template for the rest of the story. From this moment till now. Jesus is known by these two disciples in the breaking of bread, in walking and talking. Jesus shows up in their place of despair. And I think that's the grand truth about life. We come to know truth, to know love, not by reading about it in a book, but by experiencing it. Just as they experienced it on that road and at that dinner table. And our job in life is to keep seeking those experiences and to keep seeking people and being those experiences for them. You see, I don't have greater compassion than I used to have, if I do. I don't have greater compassion than I used to have because I read a really good book about it and it told me to. Compassion requires contact with people who need compassion. It requires opening myself and opening my pain and my hurts to people who might have compassion for me. We grow to know and to love people through conversation. By talking about our day, about politics, about the weather, about the Cowboys, about death and fear and hopes and dreams and shattered hopes and shattered dreams. We grow to love and know people by walking with them through times of despair. We get to know and love people by sitting and eating with them. You see, what Jesus demonstrates in this very brief encounter is how to live a resurrected life. How to truly be alive. And it isn't just a matter of breathing or not breathing. You know, you're alive or you're dead. It is about seeing people even when they don't see you. It's about loving people in their moment of hopelessness. It's about breaking bread and blessing them. And in that moment, maybe they see. During this time of quarantine and social distancing, if there's anything I miss, it is having meals with people. If there's anything I miss about church, it's not, I hate to say it, it's not the singing. It's not what we do in worship. It's certainly not my preaching. What I miss about church is sitting down and having meals with everyone. Pulling up a chair and eating a strange assortment of potluck. And listen to people talk about their week or talk about this new thing that's happening or this family difficulty they're having. There is a reason that throughout the Gospels, Jesus is constantly seen at parties and constantly seen eating dinner with people. It is because he was living the resurrected life before he was resurrected. And it is why, when you get to the end of Luke, like this story in the beginning of Acts, what you see is the early church doing the exact same thing. It talks about in Acts chapter 2, they were daily in each other's homes. They were constantly breaking bread and sharing meals together. This is what they did because to live a resurrected life means to be with people, to love people, to listen to people, to talk with people, to eat meals with people. It is how our pain finds compassion. How our loneliness finds love. You see, all of us at some time, at some place, are like the two disciples, right? The two disciples on this road. We are all at some point like that. We are lost in our own thoughts, our own cares, our own concerns. We are blinded by our pain and our distress and our hopelessness. And what brings us back, what rescues us, what restores our senses, what brings us back to life is not some perfect theological formulation or some miraculous experience on a lonely mountain. Rather, what tends to bring us back is a really good friend who listens. A good meal over which we share our story. A small act of compassion or hope given to us. Or sometimes what brings us back is that small act of hope or compassion that we give to someone else. And it doesn't just open their eyes, it opens ours. You see, at its core, I think the resurrected life and what brings about resurrected life is that in the midst of craziness, in the midst of hurt, in the midst of pain, in the midst of loss, in the midst of confusion, in the midst of everything that it can sometimes mean to be a human being, someone chooses to see us. Even when we are incapable of seeing anything. Much is made in this story of the fact that the disciples, the two people on the road, did not recognize Jesus. They could not see him. But he saw them. He saw them. And he jumped right into their hopelessness and their despair. And in doing so, they found new life. Even in the midst of this time of difficulty, may we see each other. May we see the hopelessness or the despair. And may we do whatever we can to extend compassion and love, so that others don't feel lost and lonely, but feel alive.